Shalom to Israel. This is Carrie.
Hi, I have an appointment to have a telephone interview with Mr. Noam Rocher, the rabbi.
Yeah. Hold on just a moment, please.
Thank you so much.
Mark?
Yes, it's me.
Hi, this is Rabbi Rauscher. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing fantastic. I would like to say thank you for letting me interview you over the telephone. It's very, very nice of you to let me do that.
Sure thing, yeah. Yeah, where are you calling from?
UNC Charlotte. Right now, I'm a student and I'm taking a world religions class. And last weekend, I actually got to visit Temple Israel, and I got to, yeah, come see you guys' synagogue. It was very nice. And another part of the requirement for this final exam project of mine is to interview a rabbi.
Right.
And so, yeah. Um,
That's great. Well, that's just great.
Oh, no, thank you. And I just would like to forewarn you, I am recording this conversation, and I'm asking just basic questions, like such as what is kosher and what does it mean to you? Like, can women be rabbis? Just very basic questions, nothing intrusive. It's just a, I guess, an overview of what Judaism is in America, kind of.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, happy to help.
Okay, and like I said, it should only take 10 minutes. I know you're a busy guy, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with it.
Okay.
Okay, the first question is, like I just said, what is kosher, and what does kosher mean to you?
So it's a great word. Thanks for asking. Kosher is probably the most popular Jewish word there is. People use it colloquially to say things, like, is it kosher? Or like, is it okay? Right?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to do something like that?
Mhm.
And, that I think speaks to the idea in and of itself, right? When we talk about kosher, we primarily talk about dietary laws and what is okay, right? What is kosher mean? And that comes from any number of biblical standards that we find in the Torah um, uh, that evolved over time. References as early as the story of Noah and the book of Genesis, where God says, um, you can eat whatever you want, but prior to that, God says Adam and Eve that you can have, all the greenery, right? So it seems like God's talking to Adam and Eve and saying, you can be vegetarians. Then when it comes time for Noah and his people to repopulate after the great flood, right, they can start eating certain foods, more particularly, like animal life. And then as the story of the Jewish people progresses in the Torah, we find other examples where God says, you have to eat only certain types of animals, right? God starts giving certain specifications for what those animals are. For land animals, any animal that uses cud, it has split hooves that are hard, right? And those animals are cows, right? They're not horses. Horses don't have split hooves,
Mhm.
even though they do chew their cud and their hooves are hard. They're not camels. Camels chew their cud and have split hooves, which those hooves are soft. Um, and so, we start getting more and more specifications. And there's specifications like that for birds and fish and things like that as well. But in addition to that, not only the type of animal, you also how the animal is prepared. In the most classic sense, right? It's the biblical standards of what that animal is. And then when it comes to preparing the animal and slaughtering it, right, you have to do special things with the blood, which is to say, the animal is supposed to be drained of all of its blood, right? That's supposed to go back to the earth. It's not for consumption. It's lifeblood. It's what gives people their ability to do God's work in the world, the holy thing. Um, and so not allowed to imbibe in any of that. So that we usually drain significantly and salt significantly in order to help with that. But in addition, when the animal is slaughtered itself, you have to do so in a way that's in some ways most dignifying, but also most compassionate, right, of the animal. So we take all those standards into consideration because of wanting to be compassionate to the animal, which is most likely unwilling to give up, or giving up its life for our consumption and our sustenance. So it has to be done in a particular way in which the animal is given dignity in its life and then also in its death. So there's a particular method and blessings and utensils used for performing the slaughtering of the animal. Then, until recently, there have been a lot of conversations about what happens in the preparation of the food, in addition to the way the animal is treated, in terms of what happens, or how the people who make it all happen, how are they being treated as well. So about 7 to 10 years ago, a conversation started to get raised within the mainstream Jewish community about what are the working conditions like at the kosher slaughterhouse in the United States. One particular one came under fire because they had a lot of illegal violations in terms of how they were producing their meat, how they were treating their employees in terms of work safety. They were also running a methamphetamine lab outside of their plant, so there caused a great uproar in the community. And it made the Jewish community focus on appropriate standards of business operations and how that also feeds the idea of kashrut. So we started talking about kosher business, and so even if food has been prepared in the utmost to the highest standard of religious law, it still would have been considered unkosher by some standards because it violated all these ethical business principles.
Wow, yeah.
So that's somewhat come under control, but the idea of kashrut has really kind of expanded within the last 10 years for the modern Jewish community. There's still plenty of, non-modern Jewish communities, more like Orthodox communities, who, don't really take all those additional standards into consideration in terms of workplace kashrut, if you will. So there's that division just in general within the larger community, but it means a lot not only in terms of like how the food gets prepared, but how the food makes its way to your plate. And then there's one more dimension to it as well, which is to say the spiritual dimension, right? I mean, part of the reason why there are plenty of Jews who for the most part would probably be vegetarians were it not for kashrut principles that really enable them to enjoy meat in certain ways. They would probably be vegetarians. And so having the kashrut standards there and knowing that, there's a lot of credence behind them, that you can trust the people who are, set to, prepare all that kosher food. Because when you think about it, it was supposed to be a real individual process, right? Everyone was supposed to have their own flocks and they could slaughter their own food and feed their families. But people don't do that anymore, so we've shopped it out to, a couple of different businesses that do so. But knowing that, they take all the right things to maintain the animal's compassion or have compassion for the animal and maintain the animal's dignity in the whole process makes you feel better about eating, knowing that this animal has probably not willingly given up their life in order to do it, right? And it makes you just value their life so much more. Right? My dog loves me, and I love my dog, right? And that makes me value her life even more, knowing what she gives me, in terms of love and comfort. These animals are doing the same, and someone's potentially, not guiding them, but making them do it. And I can certainly, if that's the case, I can meet them halfway in terms of saying that I will only support products or only buy products that are made with this certain type of standard. And that's a hard thing to maintain because it's not a very open business. But that being said, that spiritual dimension is enhanced because, or when I say blessings, right, or when I recite prayers when I'm about to eat, because it reminds me that this isn't just a mundane thing. Something we do at least three times a day, if you're lucky in a developed world. But that an animal gave up its life, and this is a holy act of eating, not just something you do on a regular basis, right? Or because you do it on such a regular basis,
Well, thank you so much. That was a very, very good answer. Okay, so for the next question, and by the way, I have 4 more of these questions and then 3 more prepared by the teachers. So, okay, so that was the first question. And the second question: can women be rabbis? And if so, why? Or if not, why not?
This stretches over a long period of time. I do believe women can be rabbis. Most progressive branches of Judaism also believe that women can be rabbis. The Reform movement, the Reconstructionist movement, the Conservative movement, all have been ordaining women rabbis for at least the last 25 years, if not 30. And that's to say the least. Reform movement was much more progressive than that. Orthodox Judaism is slightly moving in that direction, albeit slowly, but that's even more modern Orthodox Judaism than kind of mainstream Orthodoxy. The primary reason why they can become rabbis is because there's nothing that says that they can't, really explicitly in any of our sacred texts, whether it's the Torah, the Mishnah, the Talmud, the Shulchan Aruch, right? All I'm telling you is these are all legal texts. All these, none of these legal texts explicitly prohibit it. And we also, the progressive movement survived because they adapt to modernity, right? Maybe not all at once, but when a demand is really needed, and we, acknowledge, particularly the conservative and reform movements, that we live in an egalitarian society, and women can be just as successful, and just as important, and just as central, and just as necessary as men, equal to men in all their opportunity. And so we afford them that right, first and foremost, as their right to choose that as a profession. And then in addition to that, the role of rabbis to be a teacher, a leader, and a preacher, a comforter, right, a guide, and nothing precludes women from doing that. So it's very exciting to actually see, more and more women take on the rabbinate, and I'd be interested to see how the whole community shapes out, given the fact that it used to be such a male-dominated position. So it'd be really interesting how the community will shape out if, the guys at the rabbis can still really need.
Okay, very good answer. The third question is, what are the main differences, in your opinion, between Christianity and modern-day Judaism?
I don't know too much about Christianity, but as far as I know, to be a Christian means to follow the will of Christ. Correct me if I'm wrong. Being Jewish, as far as I know, in terms of being an Israelite, right, if you want to compare, contrast titles, means to wrestle with God. And those are two kind of completely different approaches to the world, I think. Being a Christian means, I think, as far as I can tell, following Christ devoutly, and being a Jew means engaging with God, but never having to need to be in a position of certainty about it. But that we will, willfully engage with God, or be, desire to engage with God in some way. And that involves a certain amount of doubt as well, right? That's what I kind of understand the idea of wrestling with. If you think about Islam means to submit to God. And I think that also has a different connotation in terms of how people identify with it. That being said, those are approaches to theology. There are also any number of similarities, right, which I'm sure are, fall between Judaism and Christianity in terms of celebration of life and being thankful and humble. Right, I would hope to see that, any of the major religions in the world would teach people to be thankful and humble, and appreciative of, life's moments, and celebratory of, all the blessings in our lives. I would hope that would kind of be the roots between all those similarities. But, even within that, there's still a great deal of differences as well, which I think you'd be appreciative people can learn from, right? As far as I know, redemption comes with belief in Christ. Judaism, redemption, and atonement come from seeking to right the wrongs that we've committed in our lives, whether they be great or small, epic or not. And there's something to be said about both of those. So, I think there's a lot of common ground. I think there's some really distinct differences, but I think there's a lot of common ground as well. Yeah.
Okay, very, very good answer. The fourth question is challenges. Are there any challenges practicing Judaism, in your opinion?
Yeah, there are some challenges in practicing Judaism. I mean, if you don't have a big community, it's hard to get a real kind of critical mass to get people excited about huge celebrations that you want to have. Um, and if you really want to practice Judaism in a real outward way, sometimes the size of your community really matters, which is, partially why, when you came to services, you came through Shalom Park, which is how the Jewish community here, remains vibrant, is that everyone kind of bands together. And they celebrate, that way. It's kind of, for the Marians or the flip-flop. And that also leads to a greater demand for certain resources, right? More people are in the community, the chances of more people wanting kosher food is probably greater, which means that you have a better chance at getting stores to supply kosher food when there being a specifically kosher food mart available. All that really helps. So the size of your community is really important. And you also just want to make sure that you still maintain a level of intimacy within it as well, right? That even if it is a large community, that everyone kind of feels that they have a home somewhere, and that it's not exclusive. That it's a very open tent.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah, that was. Thank you. Okay, and the last question that I prepared for you before I get to my teacher's questions was, I guess based on your other answer, it seems like you don't know much about Christianity, which isn't bad at all. But the last question pertains to just how is Jesus viewed in Judaism in your eyes, like in your opinion? Is Jesus mentioned at all, or is Jesus just viewed as a good guy, or?
Jesus is mentioned in passing, right? Just because people want to know, like the big religious figures of people, and people know that Judaism is an ancient religion, one of the oldest, if not the oldest. And they're going to want to know where Jesus fits into that picture. And the Jewish tradition is very much aware of Jesus, but he's not part of our central teachings because we don't believe that he holds any significant role. I mean, Jesus really did veer kind of outside of the Jewish community by trying to turn things on its head. So the Jewish community has really kind of distanced itself in that way. And they've done so by saying he's preaching something different than what we're preaching, right? Distinctly different than what we're preaching. So if he comes in, it's as a reference point, but never really as anyone of any significance whatsoever. If there are Jewish communities that hold Jesus in value, religiously and spiritually, they're probably Jews for Jesus, also known as Messianic Jewish communities, which a lot would argue are not Jewish communities at all, right? Because a lot of those distinctions between Judaism and Christianity, like I was talking about before, are major distinctions which are real identifiable traits within the Jewish community itself. So even if there are similarities, right, those aren't similarities which greatly blur the boundaries between those two distinct religions.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, well, now that was the last of my questions I prepared. The other three questions were prepared by my teacher, and the first of which, let me get a look at. Okay. The first question is, does water have any sacred or religious significance within Judaism, in your opinion?
Yeah, as far as I know. I mean, not only in my opinion, but also as evidenced by some of our rituals. Water has huge significance. Water plays a major role in matriarchs and patriarchs' lives when they're in the Torah, or at least in the early stories of the Jewish people, on an individualistic level. It has life-sustaining powers and cleansing powers and things like that. As it's, the Israelites walk through a body of water. When Moses splits the Red Sea as they're leaving Egypt. And we know that it's water that saves droughts and things like that. And that makes its way actually into our liturgy during harvest season. When we talk about there wanting to be, enough rain for the crops and to be fruitful years and things like that. And water is still a particularly cleansing agent, right? We have a ritual bath known as the mikvah, in which people use, maybe at least once a year, if they're regular, people who do it, and sometimes people use it more often. But the whole idea is, kind of spiritual purification. So you go and you dip in the water, and it's supposed to be natural water. So you can use a natural lake or a river or an ocean or something like that. And some synagogues like ours are are privileged to have those actually set up on our premises. Um, so water plays a huge role, not only in terms of my opinion, but in terms of central practices in Judaism that have real priority.
Okay, thank you. Very good answer. Okay. The final two questions. Okay, the second question would be, would polluting water be considered a sin, in your opinion? Okay, and
Yeah,
then
it would be because God asks us when we, start taking over, not taking over, but, shortly after God creates man, God says, your job is not only to, rule over all the things here, but your job is to, be a steward of it as well, right? To be a steward of the earth. And God says explicitly, right? Don't destroy my earth, or at least the rabbis, and commentators of the Jewish tradition believe God is saying things like, don't destroy my earth, because if you do, there won't be, anyone else around to fix it, right? Reminding us that it's our responsibility to take care of that stuff. So, believing as we do that, the world is an organic place and living creature, and everything within it is a living creature, and that we have to take those lives seriously. Polluting it could potentially endanger those lives as well, and the quality of the ocean, and perhaps also have ramifications on other people's lives. Absolutely, it would be considered a sin. And it's a shameful fact that occurs in the world today. Do you know there's a floating garbage pile in the ocean?
yeah, it's like the size of like Texas. I heard.
Yeah, it's disgusting, right?
Yeah. Okay, well, that was a very good answer to my question. For the last and final question, it says, what does this particular religious tradition believe about the human relationship to the natural environment? Like, how would you link Judaism to, I guess, the environment as a whole, if you're able to do so?
In terms of what I, just said, about let's say the practical relationship between man and the environment, right? The power relationship between man and the environment. I would think at a spiritual level, we would have to realize that, we are stewards to the world because we can't really control what happens, right? We can only respond to it. Earthquakes happen because they happen, so do volcanoes, right? But, the greenhouse effect and global warming are a result of man-made mistakes. And that also is, I think, a result of poor stewardship of the world, right? We're trying to make progress, but at the same time, we're destroying the world around us. Is the Keystone Pipeline a good idea in that regard, right? Lower gas prices also have to mean the destruction of our natural environment. So, and knowing that we live within that world as well is also something that we have to consider, because it's not that we're just destroying the world, we're destroying our lives as well, and potentially for future generations. So there's a lot to consider in terms of that tie between, Jews and the natural world, but also in terms of, on a spiritual level, knowing that we are very similar to the natural world in the sense that the natural world is an organic place, right? And that it has evolved over time and changed and grown. And so too, human beings are exactly the same way. And we have to get used to that. And so are societies on a much grander level. And they all evolve and adapt and change, and we can see this through history. But we get a lot of that from the Earth's evolution as well. Because we're all a function of that, right? We grew out of that evolution, so too, we change as well. And I think, it'll probably be helpful to start, focusing a little bit more on that, and starting to be in tune with those changes, because maybe we end up getting some answers to really difficult questions we're facing.
Okay. Well, that was all my questions, and I'd like to thank you so much for taking the time to answer them for me, because you saved me a bunch of trouble by driving in this traffic on campus right now. So.
Absolutely. Happy to help, Mark.
And I have your what's it called? Your the Temple Israel's phone number. Can I get your extension on your line, just like as a reference, and also maybe your email, just in case my teacher wants to follow up?
Well, I can't give out my extension, but I can give out my email address. How about that?
Oh, that's perfectly fine. What's your email?
My email address is Rabbi Rauscher.
Okay.
RABBI.
Okay.
RAUCHER.
At Temple Israel.
At Temple Israel NC as in North Carolina.org.
At Temple NC. Oh, at Temple Israel NC. Okay.
Yeah.
NC.com.
.org.
Oh, .org. Okay, there we go. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Roucher. You have a great day.
Mark, can you do me a favor and send me a confirmation email as soon as we get off the phone?
Oh, a confirmation pertaining to what?
Just our conversation.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to send this directly to your email?
Yes, please.
Oh, sure thing. Okay, you have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.